Well, thank you for all coming here. I'm Jim Barberich. I'm the current board chair of the Greater Susquehanna Valley Chamber and the interim president. This is a great time of year, Thanksgiving, and it's a great venue to have a room full of people who everyone in the Valley can be thankful for their persistence and commitment over 3 decades to bring this project to the point that it's at today. As a member of the Chamber, and our support for economic development and quality of life in the Valley, there's some very important things I think that this bill brings to us. And I thank the persistence of our senators and our legislators who hung in there in this roller coaster over the years, and their commitment and support has been unwavering. You know, this bill, let's be clear what this bill is about. It's about safety. At the end of the day, it's about safety. Our infrastructure is aging, it requires attention, and this bill brings much needed dollars to answer that particular issue we face. This bill's about jobs, the construction that's going to occur right here in the Valley, connecting the northern and southern parts of this project that were completed years ago, will bring dollars into the local trade. And that is all welcomed by all of our membership and I think all the businesses that are here. In terms of economic development, this is clearly a key to those companies who'd like to relocate here, because logistics is key in that decision when it comes time to relocate, and that barrier has been taken down. So now, truthfully, the work ethic of the people who live in this valley is the number one element that will bring people here. I think it's also important that you understand that this was the right thing to do. And that's why these people behind me do things, because they're the right thing to do. So let me give you some personal perspective. I know with every benefit there comes a cost. And frankly, in the near term, for instance, in 2014, it'll cost the average person who travels 12,000 miles a year about $22 additional. In the 5th year of this project, when all the costs have rolled out, if, and this is a big if all those costs are passed on to the consumer, it will cost the average person about $2.50 a week. I would tell you that that's about the same value as a large cup of coffee. So when I think about traveling on the roadways and my family and safety, I would gladly give up this cup of coffee to ensure that my family travels safely in Pennsylvania. Along the road, we've had the Chamber's support through our Transportation Committee, and I'd like to introduce now Joe McGranahan, who has chaired and championed that effort. Joe has done an outstanding job over 3 decades to bring us where we're at, so I'd like to introduce Joe McGranahan.
Thank you, Jim. On November 24th of 1986, just a few days before Thanksgiving, I was honored to be standing on a platform about a mile up the road beside then Governor Dick Thornburgh and PennDOT Secretary Tom Larson as we cut the ribbon on the brand new Veterans Memorial Bridge. Today, November 26th, 2013, just a few days before Thanksgiving, and 27 years later, thanks to Governor Tom Corbett, I am honored to be standing here with PennDOT Secretary Barry Shook and our senators and representatives as we plan for the beginning of construction on the Susquehanna Valley Thruway. Looking back on the remarks I made that day in 1986, I said that to the list of things for which we are collectively thankful, we will add this bridge. Today, I can truly say that the list of things for which we are collectively thankful just got a lot larger. We are thankful to Governor Corbett for stepping up and proposing a comprehensive solution to Pennsylvania's transportation needs. We're thankful to Secretary Shook for his tireless efforts to improve Pennsylvania's transportation infrastructure and for his hard and effective work with the House and Senate to enact this much-needed legislation. We're grateful to Senator Gene Yaw and Representatives Linda Schlegel-Culver, Fred Keller, Kurt Mosser, and Garth Everett for their leadership of the legislature on this issue and for their steadfast support. They made the hard but right choice to put what might have been politically expedient aside and cast their votes for Pennsylvania's economic growth and viability. And we're thankful for Senator John Gordner, who stood on this very spot in April of this year and pledged to us that we are, if I may quote you, finally going to get our bypass. I'll admit, there were more than a few days when my faith began to waver, but John's never did. The legendary coach Vince Lombardi once said that the price of success is hard work, dedication to the job at hand, and the determination that whether we win or lose, we have applied to the best efforts of ourselves to the task at hand. Truly, that is what John, Jean, Linda, Fred, Kurt, and Garth have dramatically demonstrated for us. We are thankful for our chambers, the Greater Susquehanna Valley and the Central Pennsylvania, who have worked so well and so effectively together to support our task force and to advocate for transportation and economic development. Even during the dark days of 2008 and 2009, when the SVTP was in hibernation, our chambers remained strong in their support. Lastly, we are thankful for this day and for the promise of a bright economic future for our valley and the Commonwealth that it brings to us. We are mindful that there is still much to be done and there may yet be obstacles to overcome. But working together with our legislators, our chambers, and PennDOT, the task force will remain on the job until this dream becomes a reality. We have waited far too long to do anything less. I'll close my remarks today with the same old Chinese proverb I closed with 27 years ago. It's just as true today as it was then. Nothing is so full of victory as patience, and our patience and persistence and perseverance are about to be rewarded. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce to you the man who, when he called me and said, "Joe, forget about trying to split this project up," which is where we were before we got this bill passed. We were talking about how to split it up so we had some money to build something. What if I told you we could do the whole thing? I asked John if he had been committed to any happy farm recently, because I didn't believe he could be serious. But he said, "I've talked to the governor, and this could happen." And then I talked to Gene Yaw, and he agreed, and our representatives, that this could happen. And thanks to their hard work, it has. So it is my great pleasure to introduce to you the gentleman who has been a driving force behind this, our state senator, John Gordner. John?
Despite the weather, this is an incredible, historic day. What a great day it was back in April when we were very optimistic that today may come, and now it is here. Back in April, I gave the story of a race that's held on Thanksgiving Day. I look over to my fellow runner, Garth. There is in Berwick on Thanksgiving Day the second oldest road race in the country, the Berwick Run for the Diamonds, a 9-mile race, but I talked about the 1.2-mile hill that starts just beyond the 2-mile mark. And I talk about how it's curvy and how you go back and forth, and with each curve, the new runners who have never run it before think they're at the top, only to find another curve, another angle. And when you get up to where you think the top is, where Doc Alley's house is, and where a lot of the new runners think, "I'm finally there," you turn and realize, Garth, that you're not there yet. Because till you get up to the twin churches at the top, you're not at the top, and the 1.2-mile hill isn't quite yet. Well, as Secretary Shoke and the legislators can tell you, this has been one of the most turny, crazy stops and starts type of events that you could ever think of. And we were, frankly, a week or so thought we were at the top, then we thought we were at the bottom, only to get up to the churches and overcome that 1.2-mile hill. It's going to be 27 degrees and bad weather on Thursday, and I will be honest with you right now, Garth is running, I am not. So I'm going to be cheering on Garth, if I can find him under the hat and the gloves and all the other coveralls, but I'm not a cold weather runner. But it has been an incredible journey, a very challenging and difficult, but with everything, a very rewarding one. I am incredibly proud of our legislative delegation. You'd have to maybe be in the secretary's position and look at the big picture around the state and know how it is sometimes with various legislators, House members, Senate members. I am very proud of our delegation. With Senator Jean Yaw, with Representative Everett, with Representative Culver, Representative Keller, Representative Mosser, and I'm going to throw in Representative Harris, who supported this legislation, and Representative Millard, who took my spot in Columbia County, who also supported this legislation. From far out that way to far out that way to up that way, this delegation at the end stood together and did the right thing in getting this done. And that was extremely important to get it done, very frankly. If we would have had a fractured delegation, I'll be honest with you, this project may have fallen by the wayside because there's X amount of dollars and there's lots of projects around the state, and that was very important. So it is with pride that I recognize Representative Culver, whose project this is in, to make some brief remarks.
I want to thank everybody for coming out today. This has been a long, long process. I think we said for over 40 years, the Central Susquehanna Valley has been waiting for the bypass to finish. Not only has it been a major safety issue in the valley, it has crippled some of our communities, as I sit here looking at Len Sabori from Northumberland Borough. When we have a flood, it's a major issue, or a simple accident, it can tie up traffic for hours. It's an economic issue for our area, and I have to commend both of our chambers for diligently going at this for many, many years. And I can tell you, when we had our monthly transportation meetings, some days it felt like the movie Groundhog Day, where we were going over and over for many years the same thing. And we began to question ourselves, can we make this a reality? And I have to say, Joe stuck with us through the whole thing. He kept pushing forward, and he never stopped. So I send out many thanks to you for sticking with us over the years. We could not have done this without a delegation, and I thank our Senate leadership for leading us through this process. And Garth, as you know, many of us were still freshmen in our sophomore year. This is a big accomplishment. I know it's 16 years ago we restarted this project, and there were many curves, and last week was agonizing for us. It was a difficult vote. This project, though, sort of is the icing on the cake for us. I know we are getting 160 bridges fixed in addition to this project, and I know economic development has already begun because we passed this. The thing I can thank Barry Shoke and Sandy Tosca for being here today is, even after we passed the bill, I had reporters questioning me, constituents questioning me, is this really going to happen? I know you say it is. I know we can look on the maps, but is it really going to happen? So I thank you for being here today to confirm that for our constituency and everybody here that's interested. I thank everybody for their support. I could not walk into Walmart. I could not walk downtown without people telling me how important this was and for how many various reasons. So I thank the community for their support. And I look forward to seeing this progress, and I think I will be there the day they dig the dirt. So thank you.
Again, when we talk about a delegation, we talk about a regional effort. And if you recall back in April, we had Senator Yaw and Representative Everett here. They understand the significance of this regional project. I'm also very thankful that the way they get to Harrisburg and back is right here. So that I appreciate it. So I would like to at this time recognize Senator Jean Yaw.
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said. I think that we've touched on everything. The one thing that keeps going back farther and farther, though, is how long this project has been planned. In talking to Sandy Tosca, she said that this was part of the Bucknell engineering back in the early 60s. So I think that we're going back almost 50 years, and we're finally bringing it to fruition. You've heard all about how important it is about working together. I'd just like to personalize some of the things. and that is working with my colleagues in both the House and the Senate. You know, when you go into any kind of a battle, it's always nice to know that you have somebody watching your back and your flanks. And I think that the legislative delegation from this area, you've already heard how together they were on this project. And I can't thank the people enough. Representative Mosser, Representative Culver, Representative Keller, Representative Everett, and of course John Gordner. I mean, it was just amazing that everybody said, you know, this is going to be a tough vote, but we have to do it. And those people that I just named were all willing to stand up and be counted. And I think that that's what it takes to govern. You have to be willing to make tough votes and make tough decisions. And you know, 25 years from now, I hope that people look back on this and say, you know, why didn't these people do it like 75 years ago? So with that, I mean, I want to personally take this opportunity to thank my colleagues in the legislature, and it's just a great day for everybody, and I look forward to being able to drive and make it faster to Harrisburg. Thank you.
This project goes through 3 counties, Union County, Snyder County, Northumberland County. We have a number of county commissioners here today. I know from Union County we have Commissioner John Showers and Commissioner Preston Boop. From Snyder County, I know we have Commissioner Malcolm Dirk and Commissioner Peggy Chamberlain-Roop. And from Northumberland County, Rick Schock. I've been practicing Barry's last name to make sure I got it right. So I'd just like to acknowledge the county commissioners that are here today. I'll just say as an aside, again, the focus today is the CSVT, but I think there's $200 million or so that's going to be available for local communities and counties. Counties have a lot of bridge projects. And there's also a very good initiative that if you go to the PennDOT webpage, you can learn about that will assist counties in doing more bridge projects in a more efficient way by using like designs. And again, that's part of the leadership of the person I'll be introducing in a moment. I also want to thank our local elected officials that are here. We have mayors and other members. Obviously, this affects Shamokin Dam and Point Township, and I keep on the mayor of the borough of Northumberland should be front and present, because you know what? Within 10 years, you are getting your borough back. Which is awesome. Now it is my privilege to again introduce really one of the stars of the Corbin administration. I know when the governor was going around and picking people, he was trying to get the best and brightest. And in Secretary Schock, he has an outstanding person, someone who has brought decades of real-world experience to the position. We talked back in April, and I just penned a letter to my home letter, so I brought up all the best practices and efficiencies that have been put in place since 2011. And I should emphasize that before the governor wanted to get through a proposal, he wanted to make sure that PennDOT was using best practices and using efficiencies, because there was no use going out and getting more money to put in a program or put in a department that wasn't fully working the way it should. And so that's what Barry has done with the Department of Transportation, and that is very important to us, and it should be very important to each one of you, knowing what has gone on there and what's going on in the Turnpike Commission with the new blood there. So that's very important. But talk about a tireless person in regard to this cause. This person has been tireless on this issue and has got it to the finish line. My friend, Transportation Secretary Barry Schock.
Well, thank you, Senator, and to everyone here and to your families, happy Thanksgiving. Please be careful out on the roads. I just drove up from Harrisburg, It is getting slushy. The temperature's hovering around 30 degrees, and the forecast isn't great for the next 24 hours. So if you do travel, please exercise caution. These are loved ones we're going to visit. Let's make sure we get there safely. So please exercise caution out there. It's interesting. This delegation met with me individually and then collectively shortly after I took office as this transportation discussion started to heat up. And I appreciate what Senator Gordner said. Here at PennDOT, Sandy Tosca, our district executive, is going to speak next, and the agency has aggressively looked at what we call next generation. What's next generation? It's looking at every business practice and saying, what can we do differently to reduce our costs, reduce the costs for our county and local government partners in terms of delivering projects. And we've involved private industry along with our own internal staff. And if you go to our website and click on Modern PennDOT, you will see a host of things we have done to change business practices, things that collectively have saved $100 million a year. And we're not done. We're going to keep working on that. What's $100 million at $1.5 million a bridge? That's 60 bridges a year with the same money. So as new money gets pumped into this, and we do big projects like the CSVT, which is certainly things we need to do, we also have to take care of the existing system. And we got to make sure that every taxpayer knows that we care about every dollar you give us and that we try to maximize its benefits. And every time we work with a business partner like local governments and county governments, we want to make sure our interaction with them is helpful to them, reduces their costs, and provides the experience of this agency to deliver projects more quickly to the public and at a lower cost. So I appreciate very much the Senator's remarks to that regard. It's as important as the new funding is. But this delegation, I know that they've talked about each other, but I will tell you from my perspective, there is no delegation across the Commonwealth that has been more steadfast and together in both their desire to understand what this bill might mean from the local perspective and a statewide perspective, and then stay together in terms of their support. And I'll tell you, it's important because leadership and running for elected office, and Governor Corbett just gave a speech the other day and talked about this. It's not always about naming bridges and doing things that are easy, where you can put a vote up and say this is an easy vote. It's about looking at the long-term consequences of taking action versus not taking action. And I know many of you have heard me talk about that, is that there's, in everyday life, we all know, we make decisions, there's benefits and there's consequences. And this delegation sat down and talked about the consequences of not voting for this, of not putting it forward, and not making an effort to work with me and the administration and the governor in making this happen. And they talked about this project and others like it around the state and in this region. And they talked about what would happen if the action didn't occur. And we met, as I said, as a group and talked about this project, but it wasn't only this project. It was bridges, it was roadways. Mark Morawski, who runs your MPO here, is certainly involved, deeply involved, and has been for years, knows the situation of what happens if there had been a no vote. And it's not just means that CSVT wouldn't occur. It means that a lot of bridges and a lot of roadway projects around the state that are simply taking care of the existing system wouldn't occur. But your delegation showed what leadership was all about. They sat down and they looked at those consequences. They weighed out the benefits, the detriments, what the consequences might be to them individually, to you as citizens they represent. And they collectively said, this is something that's important to our region, it's important to our state. And I want to congratulate all of you, and I want to thank all of you for the open and honest dialogue that we have had, because it has helped me. And when John said tireless, I can tell you I'm tired. So and I'm looking forward to a holiday weekend to be home with my kids and my wife and take a little time off and do the same as everyone else does, watch a little football and eat some turkey. But it's interesting, Linda's comment about Groundhog Day. There are those of us in the administration that referred to this topic as Groundhog Day for the last couple of years. The same discussion, different day. Same discussion, different day. No resolution. Last Thursday night there was a resolution. Yesterday, Tom Corbett signed his name to this transportation bill. And it's a legacy for all of those who were involved in it, for the governor, for me, for all the legislators that were involved in this, because this is going to have an economic and safety benefit and a jobs benefit to this Commonwealth for decades to come. It's going to enable people like Mark Morawski and the planning folks up here to sit down and talk about long-term investment for many, many years that are going to help improve the safety and economic vitality of this region and this Commonwealth. And I can't thank everyone involved enough who helped support this. Joe, all the efforts of you and organizations like yours around the state that made the message clear about the economic consequences of no action, the benefits of action, it clearly has led us to this day. And for me personally, I am thrilled to now have the resources to deliver the responsibility that this agency have. This agency's responsibility is to support the lifestyle and economy of Pennsylvanians. What's that mean? It means how people get to work. It means how they get to their kids' events. It means how kids get to school on buses, how pedestrians move, how bicyclists move, how freight moves, how ports attract freight. It means we invest in the lifestyle and economy of Pennsylvania. We now have the funding to do it on an adequate basis. No longer will you hear us talk about the growing number of structurally deficient bridges. No longer will you hear us talk about out-of-cycle pavement, poor roadway conditions. You will now have Sandy and her staff talking about the improvements we're going to make to those poor roadway systems, the improvements to capacity, giving you your borough back, developing a project that's been on the books far too long. Before I ever graduated college and started working this field, which was long ago, I won't give you exact dates, but far enough back that I'm sure this project existed before that. It's time we finish it. I look forward to standing out there with Linda, as she said, and the others, and sticking a shovel in the ground and saying, here we go. And it gives me great pleasure to come back here today about, let's see, what is it? It was April, so now it's about 7 months. And know that we have gotten to those churches at the top of that hill, and now it's downhill. The other side's downhill, and I'm not a runner, but I look forward to the idea of being on the downhill side of this and going around and starting to do many projects like this, and this is a big one. There's not a lot like this one, but a lot of projects that are equally important to every corner of this state. Just as important it is to you, there are many projects like this, small, large, and others, that are important to every corner of this state to move people, move products, and improve the quality of life of Pennsylvania. That's why these ladies and gentlemen ran for office. It's why I took this position. It's why the governor ran for office. None of us came into government to say it's okay the way it is. We all come in, and in the words of a friend of mine who said it was something his parents taught him, leave it better than you found it. Ladies and gentlemen, your delegation just left it better than they found it, and they should be congratulated. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day. I'm going to now turn this over to Sandy Tosca, who's my district executive, one of the best in the state. And Sandy and her team are now tasked with an enviable task of getting this done, which is a lot better than talking about hibernation and all the things they've had to do about why this is going to be setting backwards. Now she gets to do the real fun. And what all engineers really like to do is design and build things. So, again, thank you so much to all of you. To the delegation, thank you. I mean that from the deepest, sincerest part of my heart. You guys have been tremendous to work with, and you all should be very proud of this delegation that represents you. Thank you.
First of all, I do want to thank the leadership of our secretary for getting us to this point, and the leadership of Governor Corbett and all the legislators who supported this. It is much better in my position being able to have adequate resources to do what's necessary to provide the public service that we want to provide. Now, I know that's not what you really came to hear. You wanted to hear the schedule today, and finally it's very exciting to actually give a schedule that we know we have funding to support. And Matt Beck, who's here with us today, I've been driving him nuts since Wednesday last week on, okay, what can we do, what can we get started on, and he's been running around formulating some schedules. And what we are in the process of doing, just so you know, next week we're scheduling a meeting with the Federal Highway Administration to identify what activities we can do concurrently while we're putting together the financial plan that we're required to submit. And we think there's going to be some latitude with that we're going to be able to move a little quicker on some items. Right now, we're estimating we can have the first major contract, which is the River Bridge, which is a mile-long bridge at its highest point, about 170 feet high, delivered by August 2015. That means when we would be letting the project. While we're working on the River Bridge, we're also going to be working on getting a consultant on board to do the final design for the southern section. And we anticipate we should have a consultant on board by August of 2014. We anticipate the entire project being completed and open to traffic by 2024, but we see there's going to be a number of opportunities that we're going to take advantage of with innovative bidding opportunities, some alternate bidding options that we may have available to advancing that. And we're going to, continuously look at how we can deliver this project the most efficiently and cost effectively to get it open to traffic as soon as possible. So I would just want everyone to know my staff is committed. We're actually going to be moving some folks around and additional staff to support this project, and that's going to be their #1 priority until it is completed. So with that, I want to thank everyone.
Before I open for questions and answers, I'm going to again, since I was just putting a letter to the editor, I'm going to just refer to a couple of things just to fill in some facts. The last and this is more just for background information, the last successful transportation funding package that we did was 1997. So gas taxes, car registrations, driver's licenses were last increased in 1997. There go some emergency vehicles. There was something known as Act 44 of 2007, which was unsuccessful. That, if you recall, would have involved the tolling of Interstate 80, which we knew would not happen and did not happen. So it goes back to 97 as the last time that we approved an increase in the gas taxes, car registrations, and driver's licenses. Just again to reemphasize the point that the gas taxes are on the gallon, not the cost of gasoline. So as I point out, while gasoline prices have increased significantly since 1997, gas taxes are on the gallon, not on the price of what the gas are. And I actually had a staffer grab some numbers from 1999 and from 2012. And there's some different categories, but the category called liquid fuel taxes in 1999 generated $540 million. In 2012, it generated $576 million. So over a 14-year period, the liquid fuel taxes went from $540 million to $576 million, which is about a 0.5% increase per year. Why? Because people are driving more fuel-efficient vehicles, and when you drive more fuel-efficient vehicles, you are buying less gallons of gas, and so there's less revenues coming in to the tax fund. So again, if people can't understand, people go out and pay $3.39 for a gallon of gas and say, why isn't state government happy with all of the taxes they're collecting? I'll say it one more time. The tax is on the gallon, not on the price of gasoline. And what we have done here is we have lifted a cap on the oil company franchise tax that was set in 1983. So that cap at $1.25 a gallon was set in 1983 and never changed. What this does is, over a 4-year period, it gradually increases that cap. And then it will be up to the wholesale oil companies to decide what they pass on to the consumer. We have actually eliminated the gas tax, technically, in this bill, and it will now be going to this oil company franchise tax, which will begin the phase-in in January, and again, it's over a 4-year period. But it will be up to those wholesalers to decide competitively what they decide to pass on to the consumer. There is also a passenger vehicle fee increase. That hasn't been increased since 1997. What this legislation done, and I give kudos to the House, in 2015, there will be an increase from $36 to $37. So there will be a $1 increase come 2015. In 2017, 2 years later, it will again go up $1, from $37 to $38. And really what should have been done in the past, instead of going 17 years without an increase, there will be some very gradual dollar increases every 2 years. So, and I have to be careful because we have media in here, but sometimes what you read in a capsulated column is not quite accurate for what we did. There's no big push. It's over a 4 or 5 year period, and especially in regard to the driver's license and car registration fees that most of you are paying, there will be a gradual increase beginning in the next year or two. So we have the third most number of state and local roads in the country, and unfortunately we lead the nation in the most deficient bridges, with I believe over 3,000 of them, if I scroll up here quick enough, in deficient bridges. And it was mentioned at a rally that we were at on Monday of last week that every day there are 35,000 school buses carrying 1.3 million children in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. 35,000 school buses, 1.3 million children that are being transferred on a regular basis. With thousands of bridges, over 3,000 state and local bridges are currently weight restricted. This is about a lot of different things. It's about economic development, it's about safety, it's about jobs, and it's about statistics like that. So I thank you all for coming. If there are any specific questions in regard to the time frame, you can certainly ask them, or any other question at this point. So, questions?
I have a question for the Secretary. When it comes to the CSVT, which is really the impetus for why we're all here today, is there anything that could derail this from happening, including a change in leadership in the governor's office in 2014?
No. This project will get on the 12-year program. It'll be funded. It'll move forward. I can't say there's nothing to derail it, because one of the biggest things that's concerning all of us is what's happening in Washington, D.C. The federal government is set to do reauthorization next October. As you know, or as you may know, they are basically underfunding the trust fund. The motor license fees that are collected at the federal level do not fund the obligations of the trust fund. They backfill it with general fund money, which is borrowed money. We hopefully will not see any types of cuts from the federal government. So there's always, I won't say there aren't landmines out there in front of any of these projects around the state, but there's nothing at the state level that will change, including any kind of there won't be a change in administration. Governor Corbett will be reelected. I'm his cabinet secretary. I believe that. I believe the governor's done a good job. But the point is that the projects at PennDOT, when they're programmed onto our 12-year program, and Mark can speak to this, we're a non-political agency. All right. When we program projects, we follow through on them. As long as the funding's available, we continue to follow through on them. And you see commitments made by Democratic governors, Republican governors. You see projects that start under Democratic and Republican governors. This is a bipartisan issue. There were Democrats and Republicans who voted for it. Governor Rendell was up with Governor Corbett pushing for this legislation. And as I said, we're completing projects now that were started under the Rendell administration. So our particular agency is one that is not driven politically. It's driven by need. It's driven by commitments, and we hold those commitments regardless of the administration. And
obviously, without a line item, a lot of people in this area might say, yeah, I've heard this before. I might die without ever seeing this thing go to shovels.
yeah, the reality is we're going to put it on the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Program. Mark and his team will be instrumental in that, along with Sandy, and then we'll progress it. And unless something drastic happens to overall funding, there's no reason why this project won't continue. And again, it will span our administration. If the governor does get reelected, it will continue in all likelihood. It'll be finished under the next administration. And that's not atypical. All right, there are many large projects around the Commonwealth that get started under either Democrat or Republican or continued. And the idea is getting them started. Something like this, if we build, believe me, if we build a bridge over the Susquehanna River, it's not going to sit there without being connected. All right. So, and in some respects, you should all be glad we're starting with that, because we don't build those kinds of $100 million bridges and then don't use them. So I think for all the residents, once we turn ground on that $100 million bridge, you ought to have a strong recognition that it's not going to go unfinished.
Any other questions? I do also want to thank our federal delegation. There's about $150 million in federal ARC. Okay. Appalachian Highway Development Funds. Okay. I always say ARC, but so it's sort of that. But so $150 million in Appalachian Development Highway. Thank you. It's like being home with my wife. So we want to thank our federal delegation as well for helping to ensure those federal dollars. And again, at the state level, again, you look around this room, I don't want to keep on missing folks, but the local chamber folks, the local economic development folks, I look at Charlie Benner out there. It was incredible, the support at the state level from a wide variety of sources. The Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, these are agricultural folks, were some of our strongest supporters, because when you have rural municipalities that have weight-limited bridges and you have folks that are trying to get their product out, it makes a difference. So there's a Farm Bureau. Again, I participated in the rally where you had the state chamber folks next to the Philadelphia labor folks and the Pittsburgh labor folks and the tourism industry, and it just goes on, that were part of this very broad, statewide bipartisan group. So thank you all for coming today. It will be, oh shoot, now you were just finishing my dramatic
I'm
ending.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Before you finish up, when you brought us back here, you brought us here in April, you laid out some of the plans up here, and you had the $558 million. Has any of that changed price or plans up here? It's all the same, so we can describe it the same way?
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, I mean, the dates, the schedules are a little
Okay.
different because now we're 7 months later in the process, but the schedule itself and the flow, I mean, we're gonna look at opportunities, of course, to, package things a little differently to maybe expedite them, but
the only thing that would have changed is that when we were here in April, we anticipated passage in June. That's what we were talking about. So the passage came in November, we lost a little bit of time, we lost not for this project, we lost a construction season basically for other projects. And this one, we just lost a few months. But as Sandy said, we're looking for opportunities to see how I can make that up. But other than that type of a change, which is basically just take what we told you in April, move it back a couple months, it's the same information.
And again, this is something that probably already know. There's basically 3 parts to it. There's a northern section, there's the bridge, a southern section. Obviously, a lot of 147 has already been done, but you've got to connect the bridge to what needs to be done there at 147, and then the southern section, which takes the bridge to the road to nowhere over there.
61 connector too.
The 61 connector, yeah, as well. And as stated before, thankfully in the past, a lot of the right-of-ways were acquired.
we have a good portion. We still have about 50 parcels of right away to acquire on the northern section, 9 particularly around the bridge area, and then we're estimating about 60 parcels, additional parcels are needed on the southern section.
Okay, so all of that, obviously PennDOT could not give the green light to until this bill was signed into law, which it was yesterday. So now it's full speed ahead.
Yes, it is.
All right, so it will be done. It will be done. Thanks a lot for coming today.